we are moving on to House Bill 861, sponsored by Representative Grove, and this time I'd allow Representative Grove to start out by addressing the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 861, which we had a very, I think, good hearing on back in June. Simply, the bill preempts any local regulation of employer policies and practice that was enacted after January 1st, 2015. A person who is aggrieved by the ordinance and acting in violation of the preemption would be allowed to seek injunction or declaratory relief. There have been numerous states with local state preemption. 25 states, including Pennsylvania, preempt local minimum wage laws. 9 states preempt local predictive scheduling laws. 22 states preempt local paid leave laws. Furthermore, examples of state preemption of local ordinances or regulations. This is not an exhaustive list, but the Pennsylvania Minimum Wage Act preempts and supersedes any local ordinance or rule concerning the subject matter of the act. The Clean Indoor Act preempts local regulation of smoking in public places. The Uniform Fire Acts and Pennsylvania's Crime Code prohibits local ordinances of the lawful ownership, possession, transfer, or transportation of firearms, ammunition, or ammunition components when carried or transported for the purposes not provided by state law. The Local Tax Enabling Act provides an automatic future preemption of the General Assembly enacts taxes or license fees on any privilege, transaction, subject, or occupation on personal property or sale of admission to places of amusement or sales of other transfers. Dog law abrogates local ordinances regulating dangerous dogs and preempts ordinances. Auctioneer and Auctions Licensing Act prohibits municipal license requirements for auctioneers. The Massage Therapy Law preempts and supersedes municipal license requirements. The Real Estate Seller Disclosure Act prohibits municipalities from regulating real estate non-disclosure requirements or the specific provisions of a real estate transfer agreement. The Vehicle Code prohibits local regulation of vehicle. Municipalities will lose liquid fuels money and other state transportation dollars if they pass an ordinance in violation. The Home Improvement Consumer Protection Act prohibits political subdivisions from requiring a separate registration or payment of fee by home inspector contractors. The Wireless Broadband Co-Location Act prohibits municipalities from adopting ordinances relating to the collection of wireless facilities. Agricultural Code preempts many new local ordinances. The Municipalities Code preempts restrictions on local ordinances with regard to criminal offenses, amateur radio, penalties for landlords or tenants as a result of legitimate contracts to policies. The Oil and Gas Code prohibits municipal regulation of oil and gas operations. The Radiation Protection Act supersedes local ordinances or regulations. And I believe the Fiscal Code this year, which passed in a bipartisan fashion, did some preemption on cigarette taxes as well. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. John Scarpato will now provide a brief synopsis of the bill.
Representative Grove basically covered this, but the House Bill 861 preempts municipalities from regulating employer policies and practices. Any ordinance, rule, or policy in violation of the preemption would be void. The bill exempts mandates affecting employees of the municipality itself and grandfathers an ordinance, rule, or policy enacted prior to January 1st, 2015. A person adversely affected by a violation will be allowed to seek declaratory or injunctive relief and actual damages and can be awarded reasonable expenses.
Thank you. At this time, Representative Grove would like to offer Amendment A9156 to House Bill 861, and John's going to explain that amendment.
Amendment 9156, Representative Grove clarifies that the bill would not preempt any ordinance authorized under the Human Relations Act or the terms and conditions of a collective bargaining agreement. It amends the definition of employer policies and practices to provide additional clarification. It eliminates school districts from the definition of municipality to avoid preempting any policies related to student internships, co-ops, or job placement activities, etc. And it provides, it corrects the drafting oversight by including a definition for reasonable expenses.
Is there any discussion on the amendment? Do we have a motion to move the amendment? Representative Dush, Representative Clunk, I'm sorry, Representative Clunk seconds that motion. Would the Secretary please call the roll?
Chairman Kaufman?
Yes.
Cox?
Yes.
Delozer? Yes. Dush?
Yes.
Gillen?
Yes.
Grove?
Yes.
Kiefer?
Yes.
Keller?
Yes.
Clunk?
Yes.
Kenzie.
Yes.
Maloney.
Yes.
Guinness.
Yes.
Menser.
Yes.
Nelson.
Yes.
Rader.
Yes.
Topper.
Yes.
Chairman Galloway.
Yes.
Cephas. Sorry.
Yes.
Deasy.
Yes.
Donatucci.
Yes.
Kruger Brannicky.
Yes.
McNeil.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Mullery.
Yes.
Nielsen.
Yes.
Ravenstall.
Yes.
Snyder.
Yes.
Thank you. The amendment A9156 has been adopted unanimously. At this time, we'll move on to Representative Nielsen, who would like to offer amendment A9082 to House Bill 861. Haley Solera will be explaining the amendment.
The amendment simply eliminates the retroactivity of House Bill 861.
Thank you, Representative Nielsen. Anything you'd like to add?
Yes, I would. Thank you, Chairman. And I hope I have the same success rate as Representative Grove did on his last amendment. My amendment takes out the retroactivity, and I bring it to light because we keep on trying to move backwards. But we only move backwards on certain things. Take, for instance, what we read in the news every day. We read about the church scandal and going back for retroactivity. This body can't even pass a piece of legislation to take care of victims that molested kids. And here we are attempting to go retroactive to take away the rights of workers and to take away and preempt cities and municipalities throughout the Commonwealth from doing something they've already done back to 2015. So I would hope the committee would think in their hearts that this is not the right thing to do. It's not right to go backwards. From today forward, I'm good with it, so this changes the date, and I look forward to your support.
Yes. Anyone else on the amendment? Representative Grove.
Thank you. Would the gentleman prime sponsoring this bill be affirmative vote on the final passage of the vote if we adopted this amendment?
There's a whole lot of amendments that we have to see, Mr. Sponsor. So as soon as we see the final version of the bill, I will make my decision at that time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone else on the amendment? A motion to move the amendment. Representative Deasy. Representative Ravenstall seconds the motion. And would the secretary please call the roll? No.
Hey, Rye, we're
Keller.
classmates, man.
Clunk. Kenzie.
No.
Maloney. McGinnis.
No.
Menser. Nelson. Rader.
No.
Topper.
No.
Chairman Galloway.
Yes.
Cephas.
Yes.
Deasy.
Yes.
Donatucci.
Yes.
Kruger Brannicky.
Yes.
McNeil. Miller.
Yes.
Mullery.
Yes.
Nielsen.
Yes.
Ravenstall.
Yes.
Snyder.
The amendment has failed, and at this time we will move on to Representative Donatucci, who would like to offer amendment A9083 to House Bill 861. Haley Solera would be providing an explanation of the amendment.
This amendment would exempt cities and counties of the first class.
Thank you. Representative Donatucci. Is there anything you'd like to add?
Well, you know, on May 13th, the city of Philadelphia passed promoting healthy families and workplace ordinances. I think that this is just, I need to protect the workers of Philadelphia. So I need to exempt this bill to protect our workers. I mean, they already have this. This is affecting hundreds of thousands of workers that already have sick time. You know, we need to make a state law if we're not going to allow local control. So I am asking for a yes vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Donatucci. Representative Grove.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm sure there's many laws both sides would like to exempt their local municipalities from that are already enacted or moving forward. The scope of this underlying legislation is to ensure we have uniform labor law practices across the entire Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. If you exempt one, you might as well exempt them all. If we're going to do that, we can exempt York County out of the income tax and the sales tax and a bunch of other stuff that we don't like in York County. But I would say, based on this, it completely eliminates the scope of this law, and I would ask the committee for a no vote. Thank you.
Thank you. And do I have a motion on Amendment 9083, Representative Miller? Second, Representative Nielsen. Would the Secretary please call the roll?
Chairman Kaufman.
No.
Cox. No. Delozer. No. Dosh. No. Gillen. Grove.
No.
Kiefer.
No.
Keller.
No.
Plunk.
No.
McKenzie.
No.
Maloney.
No.
McGinnis.
No.
Spencer.
No.
Nelson.
No.
Rader.
No.
Topper.
No.
Chairman Galloway.
Yes.
Cephas.
Yes.
Deasy.
Yes.
Donatucci. Kruger Brandegi. McNeil. Miller.
Yes.
Mullery.
Yes.
Nielsen.
Yes.
Ravenstahl.
Yes.
Snyder.
Amendment 9083 failed. And at this time, we'll be moving on to Representative Ravenstahl, who would like to offer Amendment 9084 to House Bill 861. Haley Solero will provide a brief an explanation of the amendment.
This would exempt cities of the second class.
Representative Ravenstahl, anything you'd like to add?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Very similar to my good colleague from Philadelphia's amendment. This would just exempt Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh has passed the Paid Sick Days Act that affects roughly around 50,000 workers in Pittsburgh, and appreciate the committee's support. Thank you.
Representative Grove, anything you'd like to add?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Similar arguments to Amendment A9083. However, I would support an amendment to declare the second-class city the city of champions. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Grove. Representative Nielsen.
Not this year, maybe next year, on the reps motion. However, I mean, you have the two largest cities that are saying, hey, look, get me out of this bill. Get me out of it. Look, this is a bad piece of legislation, and I think we should support it and let this city of Pittsburgh make their own decisions. They have an elected body, the Philadelphia City. These local towns and cities have elected bodies. And if the people don't like it, let them elect those people out. Let them throw them out of office. We should not keep telling them what to do. I support the reps amendment. I hope everybody else does as well.
Chairman Galloway.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do think in these last two amendments, there has been it's difficult to imagine that my colleagues on the other side of the aisle are actually advocating for superseding local control when it comes to the two biggest cities in our state. Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, as the previous speaker mentioned, have elected bodies. They're not just they're just not any towns that we're talking about across the state. We're talking about Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. And these two votes, the last two votes that we had, are a direct affront to the elected officials and the people that elected them in that town, in those cities. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Motion on the amendment. Representative Mullery, second. Representative Miller, would the Secretary please call the roll?
Chairman Kaufman.
No.
Cox. No. Delozer. Dosh. No. Gillen. Grove.
No.
Kiefer.
No.
Keller.
No.
Clunk. McKenzie.
No.
Maloney.
No.
McGinnis.
No.
Menser.
No.
Nelson.
No.
Rader.
No.
Topper.
No.
Chairman Galloway.
Yes.
Cephas.
Yes.
Deasy.
Yes.
Donatucci.
Yes.
Kruger Brandegi.
Yes.
McNeil.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Mullery.
Yes.
Nielsen.
Yes.
Ravenstahl.
Yes.
Snyder. Yes.
Amendment A9084 has failed. Moving on to Representative Miller, who'd like to offer Amendment A9087 to House Bill 861. Haley
Mr.
Solero.
Chairman, Mr. Chairman, is a motion in order at this particular time?
Well, it depends what that motion is.
I'd like the motion to table this legislation.
All right, the motion has been made to table the amendment. Is there a
No,
second?
not the amendment, the entire bill.
Table the bill. Is there a second? Representative Ravenstall?
Because it's obvious.
Thank you. Would the secretary please call the roll?
On the motion, Mr. Chairman?
Okay.
Thank you,
Go
Chairman.
ahead.
It's obvious that this is an unwanted piece of legislation, and I think it furthers further discussion. It needs further discussion. And maybe we should get testimony from these cities who have laws like this that are affected. We did hear testimony at a previous hearing, and they weren't even invited. However, they were available to send letters up, which they did. I really think we have to see the amount of people this affects, how many people are already seeking these benefits and getting these benefits of paid sick leave. Some of the sick and elderly that this takes care of. I just believe that a motion to table this, because look, in reality, it's not going anywhere. We all know that. There's not enough time. And for us to just push something through this committee, I just think it's we're wasting all our time, including the public's. This takes care of a lot of people. And the two largest cities in the Commonwealth are sitting here with members on this committee saying, hey, look, don't do this. Listen, the representative, he wants to opt out York County. That's great. Okay, Philadelphia and Pittsburgh is not York. It's a whole different place. And we need to take into consideration that this hurts. Passage of this legislation will hurt hundreds of thousands of people. And I hope everybody can support my motion to table this bill.
Chairman Galloway.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do support the motion to table. I think at this point, if we're not even going to consider exempting places like Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, then we should just slow down. This is just affecting way, way, way too many people. The idea that we're going to supersede local control over places like Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, it's time we should just slow down on this bill and table it and get input from the two largest cities in our Commonwealth. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Grove.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill is not a new bill. It's been around for at least 3 sessions. The city of Philadelphia was asked to participate in a hearing on September 5th, room G50, the Irvis building between 10 a.m. and noon. They declined the opportunity to testify in front of the committee. We've given them ample time, including notification of this meeting, to submit comments. I would ask a negative vote on this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, we did as a committee consider exempting Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, and those just failed. And we did get comments from the city of Philadelphia after they declined to appear before the committee. On the motion to table, would the secretary please call the roll? No.
Dosh? No. Gillen? Grove?
No.
Kiefer? No. Keller?
No.
Vaughn? No. Kenzie?
No.
Maloney? No. McGinnis?
No.
Spencer?
No.
Nelson?
No.
Rader?
No.
Topper?
No.
Chairman Galloway?
Yes.
Cephas?
Yes.
Deasy?
Yes.
Donatucci?
Yes.
Kruger Brannicky?
Yes.
McNeil?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Mullery?
Yes.
Nielsen?
Yes.
Ravenstall?
Yes.
Snyder?
The motion to table has failed. Moving on, Representative Miller would like to offer Amendment A9087 to House Bill 861, and Haley's going to provide a brief explanation of the amendment.
This would create a new section, Section 102, employer mandates by municipalities, and would allow municipalities to mandate that employers provide employees with leave to participate in the treatment of a child who has been diagnosed with an intellectual or physical disability.
Representative Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, it's been a long goal of mine to expand the assistance for families, in particular, with a loved one with a disability. There are often numerous appointments, both of the medical as well as the academic, to which extend beyond aspects of traditional FMLA. And obviously, my long-term goal has to been able to allow for the possibility of such leave to be paid. The majority of families who I come across in relation to disabilities are hanging on by a very thin thread. It is very challenging for them to be able to balance a career or two and what can be the long-term health needs for their loved ones. And as we have been trying to strengthen a system where more people are staying at home or in group home facilities that are in the communities, the reality is that we should open the door for greater possibilities for support for those families by allowing them to have the possibility of greater leave and paid leave possibilities relating to their loved ones. I'd ask for an affirmative vote on the amendment. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Representative Grove.
Is there would a motion be in order at this time, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to call the previous question for immediate consideration of House Bill 861.
Okay, with that motion, I believe requires 3 members of the committee with 10% of the body needing to second that motion. Representative McGinnis, Representative Dush, and Representative Klunk. And with that, I will grant the courtesy of allowing the majority chair or the minority chairman to address the issue.
But we all have a chance, Mr. Chairman?
No, that's not in order.
I have another motion,
You're not
Mr.
in
Chairman.
order. There are no other motions in order at this time.
This is. I motion to adjourn this meeting because this is a bunch of crap. And you can adjourn this. You cannot shut us down. Seth, let us... I'm sorry, I'm addressing the member himself. Mr. Chairman, we have to be able to voice our concerns with this legislation. To shut us down, and my motion to adjourn is order. It takes precedence under Robert's rules, and I think we need to adjourn this meeting because this is not going to go
And
good.
it's been seconded by whom? Representative Mullery, would the secretary please call the roll?
Chairman Kaufman.
No.
Delosier. Dush. Gillen. Grove.
No.
Kiefer.
No.
Keller.
No.
Plum. Kenzie.
No.
Maloney.
No.
McGinnis.
No.
Spencer.
No.
Nelson. Rader.
No.
Topper.
No.
Chairman Galloway.
Yes.
Yes.
Donatucci. Yes. Kruger Brannicky. Yes. McNeil. Yes. Miller.
Yes.
Mullery.
Mr. Chair, I didn't hear Nelson, Rader, or Topper's votes. Could they be repeated?
No.
No. I'm a yes.
Ravenstall. I'm
Yes.
sorry, Nielsen.
Yes.
Ravenstall.
Yes.
Snyder.
Yes.
The motion to table failed. There's a motion on the table to move the previous question for immediate consideration of House Bill 861. Would the secretary please call the roll?
Can I speak on the motion, please? Just,
As a courtesy, I'll allow it, but your member interrupted you.
he made a motion, Mr. Speaker.
Are you going to speak or not? Go right
there.
ahead.
I'm getting there. Slow down a little bit, all right?
Would the secretary please call the roll?
Hold on.
Go right ahead.
Are you
The
serious?
secretary.
You're not going to let me speak on the motion?
Yes.
Jeez.
Delosier.
Let's get at it.
I think.
This is.
This is a motion to call the previous question.
Dush. Yes. Gillen.
I think.
Yes. Proxy.
Grove.
Yes.
Kiefer.
Yes.
Keller.
Yes.
Plum.
Yes.
McKenzie.
Yes.
Maloney.
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Spencer.
Yes.
Nelson.
Yes.
Rader.
Yes.
Topper.
Yes.
Chairman Galloway.
Am I allowed to vote? No.
Cephas. Cephas? No. Deasy?
No.
Donatucci? No. Kruger Brannicky? No. McNeil? No. Miller?
No.
Mullery?
No.
Nielsen?
No.
Ravenstall?
No.
Snyder?
The motion to move the previous question, it was successful. We will now go to the immediate consideration of House Bill 861. Would the Secretary please call the roll?
Can we speak on the bill?
There's nothing in order except the calling of the roll. It's the point of the immediate consideration of House Bill 861. No, you may not.
What, we can't vote on the bill at all? I mean, we can't talk
Yes.
about it?
Cox? Yes. Delosier? Yes. Josh?
Yes.
Gillen?
Yes, proxy.
Grove?
Yes.
Kiefer? Yes. Keller?
Yes.
Strong? Yes. McKenzie?
Yes.
Maloney?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Menser? Yes. Nielsen? Or I'm sorry, Nelson?
No.
Rader?
Yes.
Topper?
Yes.
Galloway?
No.
Cephas? Yeah. Deasy?
No.
Donatucci?
No.
Kruger Brannicky?
No.
McNeil?
No.
Miller?
No.
Mullery?
No.
Nielsen?
No.
Ravenstall?
No.
Snyder?
House Bill 8, it was 16 votes in the affirmative. House Bill 861 has been reported as amended, and moving on to House Bill 1781.